Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever applies to you. Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Julia. I'm a contemporary singing specialist based in Australia, and today I am diving on into Tom Jones' I'll Never Fall in Love Again, and I cannot wait to break this one down for you. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
I've been in love so many times, thought I knew the score. Now you've treated me so wrong, I can't take anymore. And it looks like I'm never gonna fall in love again. Fall in love. No, I'm never gonna fall in love. I mean it.
Oh, the dynamics, the placement shifts, the connectivity to the body. Now, I get a little bit dramatic sometimes in my reactions. This is some seriously good singing, but also some seriously good performing. So let's just touch on those few things that I just mentioned then, and we'll go back and I'll find examples. So let's start with dynamics. We have a few key dynamic moments already in the beginning of this song. So this is where we're starting.
I've been in love so many times, thought I knew the score. Now you've treated me so wrong, I can't take anymore.
All right. So a great example there. We're starting off with something that is a little bit more belt-like. We're a little bit more mass heavy in this sound. It leans more towards what you might find someone who's singing a blues song or that kind of vocal approach. It's a little bit heavier in the vocal folds, a little bit more of that belting quality to it, but he's not afraid to lean out of that quality like what he just did at the end of this phrase here.
I can't take anymore. And it looks like I'm never gonna fall in love again.
So even though he's traveled further into the song, he has not actually returned to the dynamic that he uses when he first starts singing. We start off with something that's a little bit loud and engaging. It matches the music, might match the emotional intention of the vocalist as well. And now we're into something that sounds a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more intimate. And it truly sounds like that because we've had to come down from this louder dynamic. And now we're talking about something like, oh, it looks like I'll never fall in love again. This is something that is a little bit more personal and it brings us as a listener further in as well because he's softer. You have no choice. You have no choice. You're listening to something that sounds more intimate because quieter sounds tend to. Anyway, so as we progress, can we start to see the play of the dynamic? We have this bigger sound, draw it back in. Bigger sound, draw us back in. We have those intimate dynamics, those intimate moments at the ends of rather loud dynamics. Now, with that loud dynamic, he's delivering it in a way that is very connected and relies a lot more on the acoustics of his voice rather than forcing it. It doesn't sound overly chesty or pressed. Pressed phonation is a good indicator that someone's working perhaps too hard to get the sound out that they want. We don't get any of that from him. It's warm, it's rich, there's depth, and that volume seems very natural for his body to be creating it. And then he's able to calm down out of that. this requires an adjustment in your breath flow. And often it's not like a conscious decision, okay, I'm adjusting my breath flow. It can feel like a very organic process for singers who are quite connected to what they're doing. But this change in dynamic, there are little adjustments that are occurring all throughout that dynamic change. And it's why something like dynamics is hammered so heavily in more on the classical side of perhaps pedagogy, but for contemporary, you can absolutely use dynamics just as much of a weapon as whether you're singing classical repertoire or contemporary repertoire. It's just different songs, different lyrics, and you can decide a little bit more where you want to put those in contemporary. Don't be whipping out your interpretation of dynamics for a song in your classical repertoire. That might not be a great idea. Anyway, let's hear that louder dynamic into that swell, bringing it back again, and we'll go from there. That mouth shape. You want a big sound that's a little bit easier on you acoustically? That mouth shape was great. It almost looks like he's trying to devour the sound that he's creating, but it's actually just setting up a really good means of getting that contemporary sound out. Like we get a little bit more of the teeth involved. It's almost looking like a square even, and you'll find that more you play around with your own mouth openings and jaw and lip positions, it really does change how things feel and sometimes the ease at which you can execute certain sounds. So let's look at that mouth there. Those other 2 points, I think I'll investigate them a little more throughout the song because I know I've already spent a little bit of time on here, but oh.
Just broke down and cried, and it looks like I'm never gonna fall in love again.
So really similar to his approach the first time through the chorus, and some hints at flexibility just on a vowel. So it's a little easier to move quickly if you have a consonant to sort of like kick off each note. It's a little bit harder sometimes to move flexibly through vowels alone because it's almost like you don't have as much mouth work involved. It's all kind of through the back of the throat. And sometimes we don't realize just how much we rely on our consonants for our flexibility. And generally, we should actually be relying a little bit more on our support, which is something that he's doing quite well for all of this. So the physical connection gives us that balance and consistency through his sound as well. So I would dare say that his support is definitely participating quite a bit in making sure that he's able to not only just get the dynamics that he wants, but also so that his voice doesn't wear throughout the performance, which it doesn't sound like it is. I must confess, the shape that he approached the vowel on this second chorus was slightly different to the first. I just want to go back and check that. Quite soft through here, just open the mouth, a little bit more softer in the lip on that full vowel, and then here.
again.
We had a little bit more tension through the lip. They're both beautiful, but I think that's an interesting point to consider is yes, everything that you do can affect what happens on the inside. So be mindful of how much tension you're carrying in your face. It was beautifully soft through the vowel on the first one, and then on this one, we just had a little bit more tension through the lip. Anyway, still just stunning sound. And then here was just that little flexible moment of the vowel. Beautiful on the low ridge. Oh, I can see him gearing up. He's gearing up for something. He's gearing up for his next note. Just a quick comment on the fact that he's using little intimate sounds, things that we might associate with someone whose heart is breaking or is emotionally unstable. So little elements of fry, little bits of cracking in the sound where things aren't quite coming together. Now, this may be natural. This may be a side effect of the fact that he has done some really powerful belting, and it can be easier, I guess, to then create a slightly more destabilized sound lower down if that's what you're going for. All you have to do is just not use the same level of engagement that you just did under your belt, really, and you're going to get a sound that, in direct contrast to what you just did, does sound a little less connected, like a little bit more cracky, perhaps. So that's one way that you can achieve that. Do I advise singing like that all the time? No, but if it gets you to where you need to be until you figure out a way to efficiently do it, then do it. Ultimately, though, it's those tiny little things. He's played with dynamics, and now he's played with texture. And we did get a hint of that earlier in the song as well. These are just lovely moments which emotionally connect people. Yes, you can be technically proficient. His first vowel in the first section of the song, emotion, technique, tick, 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 tick. We're getting a little bit more of the emotion now coming through with some of his decisions that have happened. And as far as storytelling goes, the progression makes sense. So let's keep going. He's gearing up. We should definitely head on into this section.
That's why I'm
Yes, 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 yes. Let's go back for that belt. Where is it going? If memory serves, I have heard people describe Tom Jones as a baritone, which makes this A4 belt pretty darn impressive. Now, usually what I'm finding is with the baritones that I work with, we're generally trying to encourage a belt up to about a G. So that A4 is lovely. For a professional tenor, of course, we're encouraging up to the C5 or higher, but this A4 that's a pretty good belt to be getting to. That's going to open up a lot of repertoire. Anyway, I'm going to go back and re-listen to that because I think I heard him modifying just slightly. Yes, okay. So as he's going up for that love, he starts off with a little bit more of a similar mass style to what he's done on the other belts. As we get towards the end of that sustain on love, which of course he's modifying the vowel there as well. Towards the end of that sound, he's modifying it slightly. It's lightening up just a touch, so you can hear that the presence at the start of the belt is not the same towards the end, and he gets away with it because he turns it into a little slide. Can we hear that? And he does the same thing. It's almost like he's using a little bit of a slide to get out of it, because if you've put a lot of pressure into a belt, sometimes it's not even the start of the belt, it's actually the end. Getting out of it. Getting out of it can feel really tricky. I've got to be honest. It can sometimes feel like you basically got to go huh, huh, and sometimes you get this breaking sound. So what he did here is put on those little micro slides, just tiny little quick ones. It was a little more obvious on that A flat 4, if I'm honest, towards the end of there. A little bit, you can hear that slide a little more towards the end of that. I will insert an example. You can hear that slide just a tiny bit more. But I think it is a perfectly reasonable way of getting out of a belt that is high for your range, but also that has a lot of acoustic energy and intensity to it, because sometimes it can be hard to disconnect from that intensity. And by disconnect, I mean just end it in a way that sounds clean and right. Luckily, we're in a style which gives us, that blues feeling. So having slides and cracks and almost like those little hiccupy yodel moments, they're all perfectly stylistically applicable. So you can use them and it just sounds perfect. For me, songs like this are like if you took the classical baritone approach and you mixed it with like a jazz crooning style with all of those subtle dynamic choices, and then you put a little sprinkle of blues styling in there. You get something that's like this. And I find it very moving, if I'm honest. I love this kind of music. I love this style of singing. I find it uplifting and inspiring. And I think I'm actually probably going to leave that one there. This is just a fabulous example of a voice that knows how to use the acoustic space of his instrument. So ensuring that the mouth is open enough, that we're not gripping in places we shouldn't, that we're not squeezing out certain notes, that we are modifying in ways that make stylistic sense when we are going up for high belts, just to ensure that we're getting out of them safely so that we're not hurting our voices. And the fact that the storytelling is still there. We've got storytelling in the dynamics, storytelling in some of the texture choices. It's a truly wonderful performance, and I've had a lot of fun breaking this one down for you guys today. So if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to give it a like, click the subscribe button if you want to, if you want more videos just like this one. As usual, I hope you're staying safe. I hope you are staying healthy, and I'll see you next time.